Yes, spring is just around the corner. Mackey joining you. And guess what? We have our spring outlook right here on the Weather Network coming up today. Not only are we going to be talking about spring across the country, but also spring in your backyard. Are you ready for it? I certainly am, especially after a frigid morning like today through the city of Toronto. And out bearing those cold temperatures is poor Mike Arsenault on Lake Ontario. Okay, Mike, you are a brave soul out there, and 85% of the Great Lakes are now frozen, and that is significantly higher than where we were last year at this time, I should say. Now, as we look into Ontario this afternoon, we are picking up some cloud cover through southwestern Ontario, but that will be clearing as we head through the overnight. In fact, high pressure in place as we move into the end of the week. We are still going to be feeling those frigid temperatures into Saturday as well. And then we have our next system to contend with as we move into Sunday. GTA expect about 5 centimeters of snow, but that should be passed for the Monday morning commute. Thanks for tuning into the Weather Network. Mackey joining you with your forecast for Ontario. It is a mighty cold day, isn't it? So cold that Environment Canada has issued an extreme cold warning, -35 and -40. So if you were thinking of heading out tonight, layer up. It really doesn't take long for frostbite to kick in on exposed skin. Let's check in now with Kevin Yard. He is outside bearing those cold temperatures, talking frozen pipes. And from one Kevin to another, let's check in now with Kevin Forget. That's just mean. That makes me really hungry. But you know what? A great way to get outside, enjoy the winter, embrace it, because spring is right around the corner. This afternoon, we are dealing with some cloudy skies through southwestern Ontario, but for the most part, high pressure is dominating, as are those cold temperatures that I mentioned. Those will continue as we head into Friday, and our next big chance of snow comes on Sunday. We have a system coming from the southwest, and that's going to be bringing with it generally about 5 centimeters for southern Ontario through your Sunday. But the good news is this should clear out as we move into Monday for the Monday morning commute. We're also watching a system for mid next week. You know, Chrissy, it really seems like this extreme cold is endless, doesn't it? In fact, Environment Canada has issued an extreme cold warning. These are extremely dangerous wind chills, so do keep that in mind before you head outside. Now, someone who is outside on Lake Ontario, of course, is Mike Arsenault, bearing those cold temperatures. Okay, thanks, Mike. Doing a great job out there. Looking into this afternoon, high pressure is in place. We are dealing with some cloud cover through southwestern Ontario, but not much to look at. But I always like to say, just because you can't see any weather doesn't mean you can't feel it. We are really in the grips of this extreme cold, and it's going to continue as we head into the weekend as well. Now, by Sunday, that's our next chance of seeing some snow through southern Ontario. For example, the GTA could pick up about 5 centimeters of snow, all thanks to this guy. Now, as it moves east, it will intensify, bringing some active weather to the maritime provinces. But in behind it, come Monday, high pressure moves back into place for Ontario, as do those chilly temperatures. Here's what we can expect for the next 7 days. Sunny skies for the end of the week. There's your snowfall on Sunday, and slightly more sunny on Monday. Did you feel that wind chill this morning? Me too. Wind chill values through southern Ontario this morning were in the -20s, and through the overnight tonight into Friday morning, it's going to be even colder and -40. So if you're heading outside your Friday morning, really make sure to bundle up. It doesn't take long for frostbite to kick in. Let's check in now with Mike Arsenault. He is out bearing the cold temperatures on Lake Ontario. By your Friday morning, the sun comes out. That's the good news. The not so good news, those frigid temperatures. High pressure is in place. It's going to remain in place as we move into Friday, Saturday, through your overnight. That's when we're really going to feel the wind chills, including the mornings as well. And then we are watching a system coming from the southwest as it moves along to southern Ontario by Monday. Expect widespread about 5 centimeters of snow throughout the day. In terms of the timing, it's going to start Sunday morning for southwestern Ontario. Afternoon, that's going to be a snow story for Toronto. Here's what we can expect for the next 7 days. There's your snow. In behind it, we do have some sunshine on the way. Angry Planet continues momentarily, but first a look at your national forecast. Beginning in the east, where we are looking at a calm day, but it is going to be cold. High pressure in place, and that's a similar story through central and into the prairies of Canada. Of course, very cold, well below seasonal, and we are going to see a bit of a warm up into Alberta, and of course, the South BC coast remains warm and dry as we head into the weekend. Below seasonal, though, for central Canada. Thanks for tuning into the Weather Network. Michelle Mackey joining you with your forecast for Toronto and Ontario. It's certainly been a cold week, hasn't it? But the good news is we are in the final stretch. The last weekend of February is coming up. All right, let's check in now with Kevin Yard. He is out bearing those cold temperatures in Vaughan, Ontario. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, that really has been an issue this February especially. In fact, this is one of the coldest Februaries that we have on record. But it's not all bad news. Let's check in now with Kevin Forget. He's having some fun outside. That sounds like fun and really good, especially for a cold day like today, Thursday night. Why don't you get the fondue set out? Warm up, right? All right, we are dealing with high pressure. You can see we have some cloud cover through southern Ontario. We did have some lake effect snow this morning through the western shores of Lake Ontario, but through the overnight into Friday, not much happening. High pressure is in place, but just because you can't see the weather doesn't mean you can't feel it. Long range, again, high pressure is going to remain dominant for Saturday. But then come Sunday, we are going to be dealing with some energy coming from the south, skirting through southern Ontario. We are going to be seeing generally about 5 centimeters through southern Ontario, including Toronto. But as we move into the Monday morning commute, this should be clearing out. Here's what we can expect for the next 7 days in the city of Toronto. Cold for the weekend, again, below seasonal. But you can see as we move into the start of next week, some slightly warmer temperatures. Luckily, that has cleared up as the system has departed, but it left with it a lot of snow. Now, this isn't just the snow that fell yesterday. That would be pretty extensive. This is your total snowfall on the ground as of today. Charlottetown, for example, 126 centimeters of snow. St. John, even higher, and about 20 centimeters of that fell yesterday as part of that fast-moving system. Now, as it tracks into the Atlantic, it is still bringing with it some active weather up into Newfoundland and Labrador, most notably the blowing snow, the wind. That is a big story. We are talking about gusts 110 kilometers per hour. You couple that with the snow on the ground. It's light, it's fluffy. Blowing snow, a big concern on the roads. Now, as we move into the evening, those winds are going to ease on the western shores of Newfoundland, but into Friday afternoon, they will begin to pick up again, sustain between 20 and 40 gusts, of course, much higher than that. Now, because the wind is coming from the west, it has a good fetch over the open water, and we're getting some sea effect snow through the western shores, generally about 2 to 5 centimeters of snow through Friday. Let's take you now to Ontario. The temperatures have just been so frigid. To give you an idea of how cold it is, Environment Canada has issued an extreme cold warning for most of southern Ontario. Here's why. Those wind chill values through the overnight are going to be in the minus 30s. That is frigid, and it really doesn't take long for frostbite to kick in on exposed skin when it's that cold. 0 for Calgary on Saturday and into about 5 degrees for Sunday. Not bad, right? Now, before we get there, we are dealing with some snow through the foothills, all thanks to some upsloping wind. We have some energy trapped there from the Pacific, but you can see generally less than 2 centimeters for places like Calgary. A lot of that snow actually fell this morning. In terms of what we can expect, wind chills through the evening, it is going to be quite frigid through the prairies, particularly southern Saskatchewan, southern Manitoba. We actually do have some extreme cold warnings in place there. But as you can see, the good news, the light at the end of the tunnel, that warming trend on the way for Alberta. We've had above seasonal temperatures now for quite some time, and it is going to continue as we head into the weekend. But before we get there, we do have some rain to contend with on the central coast, also through Vancouver Island. You can see the bulk of that snow, or rain, pardon me, is going to be further to the north. I'm so used to saying snow because it seems like everywhere else in the country is getting plenty of it. Here's a look at what we can expect for the next few days into the weekend. That low is going to depart. High pressure builds in for the weekend, as do some warming temperatures, not only through British Columbia, but through Alberta as well. Come Monday morning, though, we are going to be picking up on some snow through Calgary. Let's check in now with Deb Medigichka. She is out bearing the cold temperatures in Calgary, Alberta. Thanks, Deb. We can't wait to see the results of that. Here's a look at our temperatures through the prairies. Lots of purples. That's an indication of temperatures minus 15 or below, and they are going to persist as we move into the weekend. Here's what we can expect for the next 3 days. Look at Vancouver. Look at all of that sun. 12 degrees on Friday. It certainly feels like spring there, but it's a different story in Winnipeg and Regina. Below seasonal, but yes, the sun will be shining. It is remaining on the ground. It's going to remain cold as we head into the weekend as well. High pressure is in place for Ontario and Quebec, but as we look ahead to Sunday, that's when we begin to see this energy move into the south of the province, and it's going to bring with it widespread about 3 to 5 centimeters of snow. The good news, the light at the end of the tunnel, if you will, is that this snow will be departing the GTA as we move into Monday morning. So Monday morning commute, not looking too bad. Meanwhile, in the east, that's where we're finally going to have a calm weekend. But I can tell you it's certainly going to be cold, well below seasonal, but the sun will be shining. So if you've been maybe thinking of getting out for a while, it's going to be a good weekend to do that. Our next active weather is going to move in for Monday.
Maybe not that much snow, but certainly a rough winter everywhere across the eastern parts of the country. Michelle, Mackey, Jacqueline Woodall in with you. This is an incredible story, Michelle. We heard this today. This guy basically slipped off his roof because snow, he was up there shoveling, became dislodged, kind of like an avalanche, knocked him off the roof, and he was caught there.
Yeah, and it was so heavy, he was trapped for 3 hours. The only way he could breathe is, I guess, he had a pocket of snow where his breath melted it, so he could breathe, but when emergency services arrived, it took them about 20 minutes to dig him out. So that just gives you an idea of how much snow fell.
And what a savior in that he was able to breathe with that hole. If he didn't, I mean, that could have been fatal.
Oh, exactly. You know? It really is a serious situation. You don't think something as simple as shoveling your roof could end like that.
Everybody does it. Okay, here's a funny story. Jacqueline actually shoveled roofs on the side for extra money in my 20s. True story. Okay, let's talk about this. I'm not a huge sports fan, nor are you, but you and I are both runners.
Exactly.
We know what it's like to run in hot weather or cold weather. This is the latest FIFA World Cup meeting that they just had in the last few days. Of course, we're talking about the big soccer event.
Yes.
The last time it was held in Brazil, temperatures were at 40 degrees Celsius, difficult for the players.
Yeah, I mean, that's dangerous not only for the players, but for viewers in the stadium because they're not getting any airflow. It's hot for them, too. It's dangerous.
Absolutely, yeah. And so now what they're considering, Qatar in 2022 is supposed to host the next FIFA World Cup. And it, too, has temperatures like that in their summer season, 40 degrees. So they're actually thinking, I'm going to let you tell them, it's almost like a drone or like a remote control air conditioner?
Yeah, they're thinking of flying that over the stadium to actually blow down cold air. So it's like a remote controlled air conditioner, if you will.
Incredible. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about this, whether or not they should hold it in Qatar or not. They might even change it to the winter season where temperatures are around 20, 25 degrees Celsius. Spring out like Tuesday, 6 a.m. That's
Tune
exciting.
in. Yeah, you don't want to miss it. It's hard to believe. Spring less than a month away.
This weather segment